This viewer contacted me and said that he's had a few issues with his roof. All right, we're on the roof now, and you might notice something a little bit different from right about here to there. I don't know if you can see, there's some spider cracking right there because this is loose all the way down to there. And of course, this whole section right there is delaminated. Don't know, I was not expecting it to be quite this bad. Missed it, but let me see all that water coming out right there. I think it's safe to say these condensate drain holes are plugged.
You had like 5 different satellites on.
Might have been a leak there. So of course, like everything, it's something always else. This roof is supposed to be level with the top of that, and it's not. It's loose. It blows in the middle pretty good. I bet if Chad walks on it, you could watch it move. Yeah, that's not so good.
See over here,
It stays there.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so that was definitely something I didn't want to have happen right there. I'll try to explain it. It's not going to be easy to explain, and you guys can yell at Winnebago for me. So if you guys can see the paneling right there, that is the ceiling. Let's go take a look down over here. Right, try to see if you guys can see it. Put you down in there. Right, so you can see right here, that's the ceiling, that's the paneling I tried to show you. It doesn't really sit on any framing right over at this point. It's just double-sided tape to the bottom side of this extrusion right there. And that double-sided tape gave out. So the whole ceiling is allowed to just come loose. Now, traditionally, I thought that set on a little bit more of a ledge on this right here, but it doesn't seem to have been. So we're gonna have to redesign this. So this is gonna slow me down quite a bit, but we're gonna take advantage of this ledge right there. We'll add a spacer, extend this paneling over the top of it. That way, when we get it put up into place, we can use some foam adhesive to screw it right in there, lift the whole thing up into place, and that should glue it and take place with that double-sided foam. And then we'll use a spacer block right there so that when we extend the paneling over the top right there, that paneling will at least rest on top of this ledge. Because if you look over on this side, we got more than enough area right there to do that. So that should be fine. And the whole reason why the roof isn't collapsing even more is because this tiny little lip of that paneling is catching that edge. So that should be strong enough. I say should, but I'm not a Winnebago engineer, so I'm just a guy in the field doing my best. Other than that, you can see we had a water leak there. Water leaks here. This is way bad right there. The water leak there. Let's see. Water leak there. That one didn't water leak. That's good. A pretty decent sized water leak from this all the way to there. And definitely that vent was leaking, but we already knew that because the gasket seal didn't work. And I think these screws were leaking too. And of course the AC was leaking there. Definitely the ladder was leaking right there. And we had a little bit of water leak right there. Basically water leaks everywhere. Again, 183 stay bond, wood to the foam, screw, spray gun.
See that right there?
Yeah.
For professional use.
Oh, then we must be professionals.
It's on the box.
It's on the box.
label.
It's on the label.
Must be true.
All right, same thing as always. Glue each side. 183 won't eat the foam. Use the plywood. And there's a contact adhesive. Now you guys can't feel it, but I did notice there's a nice soft spot right there. And when I pulled this back, and when I pulled this back, that's why. This is the AC duct right there, and it collapsed under strain. So now I have to fix that too. Nice. All I should really have to do is just use this foam as a little adhesive. Don't need a lot of it. And then when I pull it back up, should cure in that spot now. A little bit stronger. Then when the wood goes on top of it, it'll actually bridge the gap and make it a lot stronger. And you should be able to see it's pretty good. Now when we put the paneling on, it'll be stronger. Now, my initial opinion is that likely somebody's fixed this ladder about 15 times. There's a lot of rivets in here. And it's all because Winnebago decided not to put any metal for those rivets to grab onto. If there was metal right here, like there was right here, they would have grabbed onto something. But 1/8 inch wood or plywood won't hold a rivet or 300 pounds on a ladder from moving around. It's a lot of rivets, Winnebago. How many times did somebody fix this? Was that enough rivets, Chad?
Holy crap. A lot of rivets.
Should be good. All right, got this pretty thick piece of aluminum sheet metal. Now there'll be some metal there for the rivets to actually grab onto. Though I suspect it could be screwed now. It doesn't have to be riveted. What do you think, Chad?
I think it's best.
What's best? It.
The
Good,
best
good choice.
around.
Alright, so this lip right there is about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to make the spacer about 3/8. And we'll see how that lines up. I'm just going to be using this foamular high density insulation foam. So it shouldn't add any real weight to it. It's a lot more dense than the styrofoam that's up on the roof. Be easy to work with. Let me just rip down a few sections for it. Alright, so here's the actual plan. I need to glue the bottom of that paneling back to the bottom of this aluminum extrusion. That's what our foam adhesive is going to be for. Then this foam that I just ripped down into a spacer will sit right on that recess right there. And then the paneling sit on top, and it should make it pretty flush and perfect right there. We'll still glue it down. And now when we extend the paneling over the top, it should take away a lot of the weight. Because even this tiny little lip right here, that's just barely overlapping, just tiny little overlap that Winnebago did on accident. It's actually doing a pretty good job holding the roof up at this point. So if there was just a little bit more over there, we wouldn't have this issue. That's the plan. I'll show you guys on the inside what's going on. Okay, so I just have this bar going across the fascia. Hopefully you can see me moving the entire ceiling back up again. So I need to glue on the underside of the paneling right there and then hold this up so it's in position. So that's the plan. Alright, so we got our foam adhesive. Just laying down this adhesive. Switch real fast. I'll just glue this down right there. Let that set up. And now when we put the paneling over, it'll go pretty much flush with that edge right there. It's the best I think I can do. The double-sided tape that's supposed to be holding it. Alright, so here we go. We're gonna put the foam. It's okay, we're doing fine, Chad. Don't worry about it.
Not worried.
Alright, Chad's gonna put tension back on it now. That's the back one you just did?
Yeah.
Alright, that's pretty good.
Good?
Yeah.
Right now I'm going to the front.
Okay. The front or the middle?
Front.
Okay.
More?
Hey, can you put more?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Good?
Yeah. I guess in the middle. Yeah. Is that about it? All right. Well, that's monumentally better. All right. So I think with the spacer right there, it'll be perfect height for the paneling, right on top of there. So we should be a smooth transition, and then this paneling will keep it from sinking back down. And then we did glue underneath to this extrusion. So hopefully that solves the major problems. I say hopefully because you never know. And then once we put the red glue down, we'll spray some more foam right there, and that should span the gap on the panel, and we should be good. Yeah, I know you guys are curious what I'm doing, but using these aluminum frames or tubes to push up from below, using the slide out fascia as a fulcrum. It's not too bad. Looks like I got a little foam way in the very back, but I think we can clean that off pretty easily. Hopefully. All right, so just add a little bit more. Hopefully.
Let's say about keeping that tip clean.
I try.
It's like welding, James.
I try.
If it ain't clean.
Want to take it? Now that should work pretty well. All right. Now you can see it's overlapped on that. We're pretty much flush there. And so now that panel should actually keep the ceiling from falling down. I say should because I'm not an engineer. Are you an engineer?
In my head, I am.
This roof is a little bit compromised right there, but there's not too much we can do about it. Hopefully, once we glue the paneling on, it should straighten or stiffen it up quite a bit. Hopefully.
No one ever does it.
All right, so we guys have a support right there to push the top of the ceiling back up, put that crown back on, so when we put the paneling back on, it should reform away how we want it. My motto is, I hope for the best, and should is all I ever have. It's a way to keep expectations low. So it's kind of hard to see, but this was bubbled really bad. We have it right about here, right next to the light. So I'll pop up that duct foam a little bit like we did before, glue it back down, move the jack forward, do the same thing again. I say it a lot. This is a laminated roof. The strength is in its lamination. The 1/8" paneling is not very strong, but it's really strange once you glue it to foam and put some Phylon on top. It gets pretty strong. All right, so there's the last piece, and the new deck is on. Now we just have to put the Phylon on. Just like most roofs, we're going to have to cut our excess. But I think that's a pretty solid repair. I think in hindsight, that maybe should be how Winnebago does it to begin with, those overlapping right there with the spacer. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself, because that seems to be pretty strong now. All right, Chad, let's get this one glued down. We've put enough work into keeping the roof together. I want this job over with. I'm tired. You?
Ditto.
Yeah. All right, so we do got the Phylon down now. I think we got enough of the peak back on it, enough of the roof supported that we should be okay. So next step is just like all the other ones, trim this to fit and tuck it in the J channel. We did already clean that out before put the Phylon down because it was a mess. Sometimes you're the next guy, and I was the next guy this time. All right, so I stayed late. I got all the holes cut out. New roof is on. Now I just have to put all the components in, including the ACs. We already cleaned out the condensate drains on the ACs. And then I'll put the front and rear caps back together, and then I have a big mess inside to clean up. But so far, this repair over here, this roof does feel a lot stronger than it did before, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Perfection was not something we were ever going to be able to attain, because I think Winnebago might have built this wrong. But you can see we don't have a low spot right here anymore like we did. And that's right where the AC was. I think the water is actually coming back to the AC. So far, I'm feeling pretty good about this. And the last thing we have to do is, of course, the most important thing, seal this edge. That's vital, guys. That's the sealant that holds the edge down and causes the problem to begin with, especially in this back area where they put metal. But not too many roofs are going to stand up to a hurricane. Let me get this put together and hopefully we'll be almost done. Now, for what it's worth, I won't cover it too much. Fantastic vent. Does give you this foam gasket. Looks like packing material, but it is that foam gasket. They did use it on that one, and I think we saw that it didn't seal very well, so I never used this. On a Winnebago roof, I'm going to use just 100% silicone sealant as the gasket and around the base of everything, because that sticks really well. And because plywood is so thin, you can't really compress putty, because those threads aren't going to grab onto much to compress the putty, because that's how putty works under compression. Whereas the silicone, it'll deform, it'll cure in that position, it'll act as an adhesive. So that's what I would recommend. That's also likely why that gasket didn't work too well either. You couldn't compress that foam very well. You can use butyl on roofs that have an actual deck of, 1/2-inch plywood. But putty doesn't work well with self-leveling silicone anyways, so silicone will stick to silicone, so I'll use silicone underneath and then self-leveling silicone caulking on top. All right, back to work. All right, so that's just a bead of leveling silicone. It's gray because I might as well get rid of stuff that I don't need anymore. The color has no bearing on it. So now when I put this down, just like that, now I've made a gasket. Pretty much just like an RTV seal on an engine or a car component. When I screw it down, it'll ooze out a little bit, then it'll cure, and I've made a perfect gasket. And it'll still do the lap sealant on top. All right, again, we're just sealing up the radius with clear Proflex from GeoCell. That's what I like to use. That's what very similar stuff that Winnebago uses, except they use a gutter sealant from a house. It's stone mason gutter. I don't know, it's weird. But we'll get that sealed up, get the awning back on, and I think this job will be done again. Pretty pleased with how it turned out. I always add these screws to the front caps afterwards. Winnebago did start doing this about 2010, I guess. But before that, they had a bracket on the other side epoxied on that was screwed in from the other side, and that epoxy always gave out. And so these front caps would start to flare out as the fiberglass would start to relax. Right here's that bracket that would have been on the inside. So it's epoxied on the back side there, and then it gets screwed on the inside. And just like most of the epoxy that Winnebago does, it doesn't last very long because they don't scuff the surface enough, and the epoxy can't grab on to the metal. It just grabs onto the paint and doesn't grab onto the paint. So at any rate, that's why we add screws to the side. That shouldn't be a problem now. Really, we're just down to the ladder. Whoever installed this ladder the last time didn't install it very well. So I can just pull these rivets out. So I have to reinstall that. I think they had the same problem up there. Yeah, so somebody could have died with that for sure. So these are what's known as expanding rivets. You can't focus. When you pull them, they're going to expand out like that and flare out behind the fiberglass. So that's how they should have been. The ones that were on there were expanding rivets, but I think they were just too short. But these are pretty expensive. I don't want to just keep wasting those showing you guys. But we got them up there. A little bit stronger now. Yeah. It's a lot better. One more to go. All right, guys, I'm just finishing up the rear cap area right here. I'll get that sealed up. Don't worry, I'll put in the missing screws. And then we just have the awning to put on. I'm not going to show you guys me putting the awning on just because I'm going to have 4 guys tied up putting it back on. I don't have time to waste their time putting an awning on. We'll cut back and hopefully the roof will be done. I'll take you through what it looks like. Alright guys. Whew, that was a rough one. Now I didn't point out that this viewer was staying in a hotel because he obviously couldn't live in it as I was working on the roof. And so I've been trying to work as fast as possible to get him back into this house. And so I haven't been able to take as much video as I'm sure you guys would have liked to have seen. But let's get on the roof and take a look at this, and hopefully I'll go over what decisions I made. There's 2005, I tasked a Sunrise Class A motorhome on a workhorse chassis. This one had the roof all ripped off on it. So we just replaced it. Let's take a look at it. All right, well, we'll go on the ladder. It feels a lot stronger now than it did before. You guys remember that part. I did add the aluminum right there, if you remember. So actually I was able to screw this down rather than rivet it. We took out all the about 40 rivets that were in there. Okay, let's get you the big reveal first, if you can see anything. Now, if there's any dirt on here, it will come off when it gets cleaned. I can't clean it until all the sealant cures. So I think we're looking pretty good. I'll take you through what we did. Obviously this whole back's been resealed. Pretty pleased with the way this turned out. And then of course the ProFlex on the radius, that will keep this from peeling up again. This is what we need to check at least once a year. Twice a year is better. I would prefer him not to drive too far for the next few days. Give this a little bit of time to cure. It's about a day old and it's still pretty wet. I could indent it really easily. But most of the sealant's still pretty wet. On the ACs, the gaskets were fine, but man, they were really rubbing hard. I had to add I had to add some foam blocks on both sides, otherwise the back of the ACs were hitting the roof. Okay. Unfortunately, the hydraulics went out on this on his way here, so I wasn't able to run the slide outs out, which is not a great situation. I was able to salvage his fairly new skylight. It just took a while to clean off all the old sealant. The old fantastic vent, which is not too old, I was able to salvage again too, since it wasn't sealed very well anyways. On the awning right here, Winnebago doesn't put this lap sealant on there, but if you guys remember, it was leaking pretty bad on the awning. So not only did I seal underneath with ProFlex, you can kind of see where all the screws, underneath the screws right there, that's some ProFlex sticking out where it got sandwiched together. I did the lap sealant on top. So it's not ideal, but we also did it right here and it's still a little bit runny. So that should theoretically keep water from trying to get underneath that radius. Or keep water from trying to get underneath the awning rail. This entire side over here was delaminated, but I feel pretty good about it now. And again, Winnebago never likes to add the front cap lap seal, but I think it's pretty vital because I've seen too many Winnebago roofs leaking right from that point. And we also added the screws on the side of the cap right there. Now, if you guys will remember, this side was way low, like at least an inch below where it needed to be. We had to rebuild the floor, the ceiling, glue it back up, and we added some spacers and brackets right there. And it's really strong right here. In fact, there's not even a low point like it did before. So I'm really pleased with that repair. Again, I'm not the engineer. We just did the best we could with what we had. We overlapped the Luan. We used some foam, that purple foam, to act as a spacer. And then the paneling on top, because it's glued to the foam of the ceiling, or of the roof itself, is supporting the roof pretty well. But then we also glued underneath to the ceiling panel to that aluminum extrusion. I've been walking on it quite a bit the last few days and it seems pretty strong. Definitely a lot better than it was. Also good because it eliminated that being the low point where it would actually put water back to the AC. Because remember, some of the actual styrofoam where the AC vents or ducts are was cracked pretty heavily right there. That one under there we were able to salvage pretty well, but it was just really weak everywhere else. Almost like people have been walking on it a lot. But other than that, we cleaned out the condensate drip pan on the AC so that they're not blocked up anymore. I don't even know, maybe you guys saw it. There's actually water or condensate dripping out now instead of going back inside. I don't know if I pointed it out. The sewer vents are new, refrigerator vent is new, and of course that fantastic vent is new. I do like to try to use as many new components on the roof that I can, because I'll be damned if I'm gonna have a roof get rotten because we didn't replace a $3 sewer vent. Also, it costs more for me to clean it off than just replace it. But we are using NewFlex 311 self-leveling silicone sealant, lap sealant, also known as hang self-leveling. We use ProFlex from GeoCell on the radius there, and underneath all the components, we're using just 100% silicone sealant. I don't care what color it is because it's never going to be seen again. But that's it. I think that's a pretty good rundown, and I feel pretty good about this roof, guys. But that was pretty much it, guys. We standard Winnebago relamination after that. With any RV roof, do make sure you're inspecting it at least once a year. Twice is a little bit better. Make sure you wash and wax a fiberglass roof. If it's a membrane roof, definitely get a UV protector on there after you wash it, at least once a year. And I'm pretty tired, guys. I got another one coming in here in about a week, so I get a little bit of rest. We'll back to it. All right, so the roof's off. For anybody that wonders what these look like, that's it. There's no structure to it. Wah, wah, wah. As weak as could be. It's nominally weak. So we have to reform that. It's rusty. My tin roof, rusted. But I have no idea what you're talking about. A Denver expanding universe? What's wrong with Denver? Denver's a fine city.
Really consider
What's that?
building some sort of structure in here.
We're not supposed to do these. I don't like doing Winnebago roofs or roofs.
Yeah, but we do so many of them.
Shh. Shh.
Still don't like them. Doesn't mean we don't do 20 of them a year. Seems like 20. I don't know. How many is it? We got 4 going right now, so.
So these are expanding rivets, which should be on there. They're kind of like molly screws for drywall. I don't want to waste more of it because focus. So these are expanding rivets, and they're kind of like molly screws. So inspecting it at least once a year, twice